Welcome to the Education Corner, a podcast by Education Choices magazine.
Education Corner podcast are thrilled to welcome Miss Amy Wallace, Principal at Queensgate School in South Kensington. To begin, we understand that you took over as Principal in September, and we understand that you have had a variety of different roles and responsibilities in schools prior to this post. Would you like to tell us a little bit about them?
Well, good afternoon, Chloe. It's fantastic to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me to join the podcast. Yes, I've spent my whole career in girls' education. I started as a fresh-faced NQT at Wycombe Abbey, having already done a year there as a resident tutor. And I've just been committed to girls' education ever since. I think we offer the girls in our care a real step up, real specialist support. And I think we're a very important part of the sector. I have spent the last 10 years in through schools where we've got our girls who are from age 4 to 18. And when I was starting to think about headship, I was really committed to following that theme. I think working in a through school is really special. One minute you're over in the junior school doing assembly, 4-year-olds hugging your legs as they are slightly wont to do at the end of assembly. And then next thing you're talking to an 18-year-old about her university applications and what she's thinking about for the next stages of her life. So you get such rich, diverse experience as an educator. It's really a very special thing. But we also get the opportunity within through schools to think about themes that go all the way up, what themes can be relevant to a 4-year-old and an 18-year-old, but also how can we make sure our learning and particularly our personal development really coherent. So, we'll talk to our parents in year 5 about device use and mobile phones, using our experiences of year 9 and year 10. And I think that offers something really special, really unique to those parents of getting that constant consistency, those strands that run through. I was also really excited to be coming to a school that had got such clear values. Both of my last schools have been faith schools where values obviously absolutely sing through. And it's wonderful to be in a school again that's got values right at the centre of who we are, kindness and courtesy, thinking of others. That was really important to me. So I'm still slightly in the kind of pinch myself territory that I'm actually here and that I'm actually leading this school.
Oh, wonderful. And how do you feel that the experience you've had to date is going to help you with your insight and vision going forwards?
Well, I think how my experience will help me is I've been at some varying schools in terms of academic intake, and we are here a relatively broad intake. So it's really interesting for me to think about the techniques and the approaches I've seen at my last schools in terms of how we get the best for each girl. It's also interesting in thinking about how in a broad intake we make sure that every girl feels valued. It's so easy sometimes with the pressure schools are under for academic results for those girls for whom say, you know what, that B was an absolutely epic achievement and we're so excited for them. How do we make sure they feel just as valued and just as celebrated as the girls who've got the A's and the A stars? I think the other ways the experience is really helping me, I've obviously got a strong understanding of the kind of particular compliance requirements for schools when we've got our little ones right up to our big ones. There are some particular calls upon us there, and I've got lots of experience looking after that, and also as a governor at Badminton, which is another girls through school. And I think also my background was particularly in pastoral care. And whilst obviously now I've got a team looking after that for me, as head, I have to lead on that. And I sometimes will be the first person on the scene of an upset. Just this week, I found a girl wandering the corridors in a little bit of a sad state. And so my experience, particularly as a house mistress, being that first person to scoop up our sad soul and say, right, let's talk this out. What do we need to do to resolve this? Is something that will continue to be important to me as a head. I want the girls to feel that I am somebody who actually they can come into my office and go, you know what, Miss Wallace, it's all gone wrong. Help. I think that's something that I expect my staff to be able to do, and I want to absolutely model that and continue to do that myself. So I think that pastoral background is really valuable for me.
It helps you to have a hands-on approach, I imagine.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about the ethos and values at Queensgate?
Well, we are a school where I think the thing that's really struck me this term as I've come in, you always think you know a school, but to be honest, the analogy I've used is it's a bit like buying a house. You know on your viewings that that kitchen has just got to go, and oh, the garden looks beautiful. And it's only when you live there that you go, oh, okay, the light falls in this room like this, or next door have got a 7 a.m. power tool habit that we need to have a conversation about. And that's been the same thing this term, coming in and actually just taking that step back, thinking, I think I know this place, but I know I don't really. What stands out? And I think the first thing that's really stood out is that we really are about the individual here. I mean, you see it instantly from the fact we don't have a uniform. The girls can decide for themselves how they want to dress each day. They do have a dress code, which is reasonably light touch. And it was a very new thing for me to come to a school without a uniform. When I first heard about it, I thought, oh, it's a little bit bohemian compared to my background. But I really love it. I love seeing their little personalities come through and how they're dressing. And I love that they can think about what they are comfortable in, what they feel confident in. I think it's really good preparation for adult life. And we make those choices, particularly as women, all the time. We're thinking about what is the right fashion code, dress code right now. But that individuality, it also goes to things like the fact that we get to know our girls really well. Our size is perfect, that we very quickly build up those really close, affectionate, but professional interactions, which was something I've seen in other schools this size and was one of the things I really wanted to retain as I became head. That size, that contact, getting to know girls one-on-one, that chat you have with the girl as you walk from the tube and she's been on your train, getting to know about what she is and what her interests are. It also speaks, our individuality goes into our academic provision. We are somewhat unusual in our GCSEs in that we only do separate sciences. Most schools these days, you're doing your dual science with a bit of all three, or you're doing your maths, chemistry and physics. We let our girls pick 2 out of the 3. And if they don't want to do one of the 3 sciences at GCSE, then that's fine. And they can fit in another language, another humanity. They can really build their own individual portfolio. And that was a latitude I benefited from at school. There was one science that I was quite happy to leave behind at the end of year 9. And that gave me the chance to be more individual in the portfolio of subjects I took forward. And we match that at A-level. We offer 28 different subjects and we build the timetable around the girls' choices. We don't have blocks. We get their choices in. We do this impossible Sudoku, or somebody far cleverer than me gets to do that each year. So we really are about the individual girl, what's best for her, what's her potential, getting the best for her, not thinking, here's the mark that everybody's got to meet. And if you're not meeting it, you're not good enough. We're also a very aspirational school, and I prefer the word aspirational, ambitious, and that aspirational, that links to that individuality. It's what is your personal best, though I always borrow a phrase I heard used by a former Newnham Director of Studies in Law, actually, Newnham College, who, when told by somebody I did my best, responded, "You don't know what your best is yet." And that's something I'm really taking forward as I've joined, is this idea that we are aspirational, we're aiming for the very top, but everybody's very top will look different, and everybody's top and dream is equally valid and is equally worth celebrating and aiming for. And then I think the thing that's underpinning all of this, we're just a really happy place. There's a real light-hearted camaraderie. We go up and down our stairs in our building, which are always a little bit taxing when you first get here. You don't want to accidentally end up on the bottom floor and realise you're meant to be on the top. That's a long way. But the girls love it. They really value it. It's something they speak about when they're talking about open day speeches, what their memories of the school will be. So we're a really happy school, jumping around on the stairs. The girls greet you with a real genuine warmth. We're a very good team as a staff. We're always backing each other, looking after each other. And as I say to parents, I think that happiness is really important, because I think happy girls are the most likely to overachieve, whether that's academically or personally. Happy girls are the ones who'll put themselves out there to apply for that top university. They'll go and do that audition for the part they think they're not going to get, because they're doing so from a place of safety and security, and they know they'll be all right if it doesn't work. Happy girls can throw themselves into their studies and they will just thrive. So actually, we start from that point. How are we making sure everybody's happy? What do the girls need right now? How can we make something more fun, for example? That, I think, is what really underpins our ethos here. And it makes it a really, really fun place to be.
A very positive learning environment. You have a very diverse, being in Kensington, and international intake of students. How do you celebrate this as a school?
We know it's something that the girls really value themselves, actually. When I first visited, I asked some of the junior school girls, what's the best thing about being at Queensgate? And they spoke about that diversity, actually. They said they loved the authenticity, and that was their word, authenticity. So we will talk, whether it's in form times or assemblies, about the different heritages and traditions we've got. Just this morning, assembly was led by Form 4, and they were talking about cuisines and foods from around the world and how their families eat. I've also seen an assembly from one of our junior school classes, and again, they talked about the history of their families' home nations, or where their family have come from in the past. And although we are mostly English, and we are English speaking, that significant group of girls who come from European backgrounds, Chinese, Indian, Middle Eastern, the list is endless. And we just really love the fact that that brings us lots of different mindsets, lots of different traditions, lots of different ways of doing things. Just the other week, actually, we had some girls visiting, and they were talking about applying for our sixth form, and they were talking about the difference between Saudi weddings and English weddings. And it's something that our girls learn from those conversations. And I don't see in this day and age that our girls are going to ever be working in industries where they're not going to be working with people from other countries. They're not going to be working in industries where they're not traveling overseas. We are a global citizenry. And I think what we're giving our girls is a beautiful preparation to be confident in that context, respectful, sensitive, interested, and see that diversity is something to be really proud of and enjoy.
Wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit, for parents listening, about the different points of entry and the requirements for children and families considering applying to Queensgate?
Absolutely. So we have multiple points of entry being through school. Our main points are 4+, which involves a very light-hearted assessment. Parents come in, they meet with our head of junior school, we meet their daughter. It's really important for us to get to know the girls and for them to be visiting straight away, because we know that helps us get to know them really well, but also for them to get to know us. And so on that first day in September, if they're joining us, they already feel really confident and comfortable. It's faces they've seen before. So they've just had their assessment actually, and their actual, when they come in, it's a bit like a play date actually, various activities, some led by some of our sixth form pupils and some of our year 6 prefects in the junior school. So just seeing how they interact, seeing their confidence, seeing their little personalities coming through. We have entry at 7+, which is a slightly different process. Again, interviews, and I believe we have one paper there just to see how the girl is performing academically. And we do want to, at that stage, make sure we feel comfortable that the girl's going to be able to thrive at our academic level. We are a broad academic intake, but it's still important to us to know that they are going to be comfortable within our context, because all of our junior school girls automatically do get an offer to the senior school. On the very rare occasion we do have somebody, maybe somebody who's come through from 4+, who their progress means that we just think she'll be better off somewhere else. And it really is there about, I don't know that you're going to get as much out of us as you could another school, and we're going to have that conversation. The vast majority of our girls, certainly all of our girls in year 5 and 6, they will all get an automatic offer to join the senior school. That's something we've changed this year. It's always been unofficial, and we said, look, let's just make this official. We love our girls in the junior school. They're Queensgate girls. We want to be keeping them through and have for them that consistency. They will still take the 11+. We are a consortium school with the online assessment through Atom Learning. And our existing girls, they take that because that information is really helpful for us in terms of where they're at academically and what they're going to need, what the right sets are going to be for them in year 7, so they can make a terrific start working in groups where going at the right pace for them. And then we also, for our 11+, have an interview. So all external and internal candidates will be interviewed. Again, for our internal, although the offer is automatic, we want them to have that experience because we know they find it really rewarding and that they got their moment with me or one of my colleagues in the senior school. Now, when we interview, and we do those in January, so the assessment is taken in December, And girls can, if they're coming from outside, they can either take it with us or they can take it at their primary school. We know lots of them will be more comfortable doing it in a place where they feel familiar, so at their current schools, and that's something we really support. They then come and interview with us in January, and something I've been really clear about is that we will interview all girls. We don't top slice based on the assessment. They will all get an interview. And when we interview, we will do so without exam results in front of us. The team interviewing will not have seen how they've done, because it's really important to me that we're not just thinking here about academic aptitude, because you know what, there might be a girl who maybe she just had a bad day at the office. It's one day in a December and maybe she felt nervous. These are little girls, they're only 10, and we should really bear that in mind. But it might be that she, you know what, maybe she's not brilliant at maths, maybe that's not her strength. But when we get her in our interview room and the way she talks about her friends, or we see a little bit of sass, a little bit of chutzpah, or of that little spark, and we think, wow, you are going to be such a great leader, or you're going to be the girl that when there's an upset in the class and there's somebody who needs comfort and care, you're going to be the first one on the scene looking after her. And your character is going to contribute as much to our school, probably more so than just the raw academic ability, actually. And so that's why we will interview without their results in front of us. I don't want anyone to think she's lovely, but I just want them to be coming out of the interview rooms going, oh my God, this girl, she's gorgeous. The way she talks about her art, she's just so interested. We have to take her, and not in any way be held back by any concerns based on academics. So we'll do that in January, and then we do our offers in line with the timing that we agree with all the other GSA schools. We also have a small entry point at sixth form. Most of our girls choose to stay on from upper 5 to sixth form, which is fabulous. We know that some schools kind of have to slightly compete to retain at year 11. We are keeping the bulk of our girls, but we do have a small entry point there. Those girls come in, we had them in the other week actually, take a couple of papers in subjects they want to study at A level, and again we will interview all of them. So that's our sixth form entry. We do occasionally have places in other year groups, and there we do our own papers, maths and English usually, and again those girls come in and have an interview with me and I get to know a bit more about them. So it's always worth, if a family's looking for a place in, say, year 8 or year 9, giving us a call. And we know that, you know, maybe it's that you have moved and you've got that change in location. Sometimes we have girls where, you know, something hasn't quite worked out at their existing school. And whatever that might be, we would be delighted to be the place to give them their fresh start that they so clearly need at that point, and work with their last school to give them a really nice transition. So we'd always encourage parents to get in touch if it's between our main entry points.
It's wonderful to know, especially with London being so transient. How do children, do you feel, benefit from attending a Kensington school?
I think we offer some particular opportunities. And I'll start with one that I think most people wouldn't consider obvious. They might even see it as a benefit, which is that we don't have our sports facilities on site. I don't think anyone's going to let me knock down any of these listed buildings to put in a hockey pitch. But actually, that means we have to think outside the box for our PE. And if anything, that drives us to have a far richer PE program. You know, we've got everything from rowing on the River Thames to yoga. This morning they were doing indoor rowing and indoor fitness because the girls coming up to assembly all kind of puffed and out of breath, having already done their workout for the day. But we're using everybody else's facilities, which are absolutely high class. You know, we've got our sixth form going off and using the Imperial College gym. So the experience of going and seeing what sports facilities are like in a university setting. We've got girls going off to do swimming at Battersea Leisure Centre or Fulham Leisure Centre. So we are actually surrounded by a chocolate box of facilities for sports, and we are using them all, which is fantastic, whilst also doing our own thing on site. One of our parents told me that I must say that we are the best school in the country for fencing. And we've certainly got one girl who's just become number 1 in her age group. So things that you just wouldn't expect at all, we have got here. And I think it is that kind of almost wanting to overcompensate for not having those shiny facilities. We're actually doing, if anything, too much. I sometimes need to try and ask my sports director, can you just calm it down a little bit? How are we staffing all of this? I think the other advantages we've got are things like having the museums on our doorstep, which is an obvious one, but we have girls going off and visiting different bits of the Natural History Museum as their weekly co-curricular club. How many schools can offer visits to these absolutely world-class, world-famous museums as a weekly club? That's incredible. And then I think as well, our location means that so many of our girls, particularly in the older years, they just become so independent. They're so used to getting themselves to school, and they are confident and they're quite happy, particularly in the older years. They'll go out and get their lunch. We really can offer them that opportunity to enjoy the urban environment around them. They've got that freedom to get out of the school buildings. So I think that's a really special thing.
Obviously, they must enjoy all the different shops and everything on the doorstep as well.
I haven't seen a lot of shopping bags come back, but I have been told where the best sourdough pizza is to be found, and a few recommendations of sushi shops. So some of those are also my colleagues, actually.
How would you describe then? I mean, I'm getting a very clear impression from everything you're talking about, but how would you describe a typical Queensgate child?
Well, I think I'd say there isn't a typical, actually. As I say, we're really about the individual, we're about the individual character. And we talk a lot about the fact that having all these differences in personality and perspective make us stronger. I was talking in assembly just the other week about Abraham Lincoln. I read the book Team of Rivals about how he brought all of his rivals for president into his cabinet and had all these different mindsets and views. That's something I really want the girls to think of as a good thing, that, you know, when you're having a disagreement with someone, actually that's strengthening the debate, that we're not all coming at it from the same point of view. So I would say there's no typical. I've got my girls who are in their sports kit day in, day out, and I never actually see what their own clothes would be. I've got my girls who want to spend their entire time up in our art rooms. Our art is truly phenomenal here. And, you know, I've got my quieter souls, I've got my louder souls who are the first ones to introduce themselves to me. I think if I was going to say the theme that runs through is a real respect for each other. I never go up and down the stairs here without a girl saying, "Oh, good morning, Miss Wallace, how are you? How's your day?" And they mean it genuinely. They look delighted to see their teachers. I was in the hallway last week as they were all coming in, and there was a little gaggle of, I think they were year 8 or year 9, having this really excited, animated conversation with their biology teacher about graphs. You know, they like being here. They love their school. They're very loyal to their school. They're very proud of it. They love their teachers, and they are just, very happy, very respectful, very generous. There's a real generosity of spirit, actually, thinking of each other. The upper 6th, just 2 weeks ago, they threw year 7 a Halloween party. It was entirely their idea, entirely their organisation, giving their time to be there right in the midst of UCAS. So that generosity is something that I would say is a theme. But, you know, ultimately, no, I don't know that we've got the typical, because we love our diversity and our individuality.
Can you also tell us a little bit about the bursary provision that Queensgate offer?
Absolutely. So I am personally hugely committed to bursary provision, and also not just the fact that we have it, that as a school we think about what the experience is like for our bursary girls. So, for example, making sure that if we've got a school trip, maybe a small European trip, it's a little bit more expensive, making sure we've got that paid for by installments, because that makes it more financially accessible. Or things like on our sports kit, not having names printed on the back, because of course the minute you've got a name printed on the back, it can never go into a secondhand uniform shop. It can never be bought at a cheaper price by families who are going to need that facility to enjoy being here. It's also desperately unsustainable, because it all then just has to go in the bin. So I'm really committed to making sure that not only do we offer the bursaries, those girls have a really fair experience while they're here. And that commitment is personal, because I was myself a bursary girl. I went through private secondary school on a significant academic bursary. I know it changed my life. It always feels a little bit overblown, and I'm not really somebody who's given to hyperbole in that way, but it did absolutely change my life. So I know how important this is, and I know what this means for families. I know why, when my registrar calls up families in February or March to say you've got the bursary, I know why the parents burst into tears on the phone, because they're so happy. In terms of how we run our bursary provision, most of it is at 11 plus. It's means tested. We have all the details laid out really nice and clearly on our website. Families do that form, but they only do it once they've been offered a place. They don't need to disclose any financial information until they've been offered a place. It is then reviewed annually. It is only right that we make sure that bursary money is going where it is needed most. And the number varies. People often say how many bursaries a year. that will vary, because I will have some years where I think, you know what, I'm only going to do 4 because they all have to be 100% plus. And 100% plus includes some of those hidden extras, the textbooks, the non-residential UK trips, where that girl would be really missing out if she hasn't got those. So it might be, yes, one year I do 4 100% plus, and the next year I'll do 8 at 50%. It really will vary year on year, depending on the need, looking at that individual girl, the individual family, the individual circumstances. We do say to families, get those application forms in on time, because once I've allocated the bursary provision each year, when the bursar and I have done that process, I may not always have the money left to offer a one to somebody applying late. But, you know, you're probably hearing that I'm saying normally and may a lot. And again, that's because, you know what, we say we're about the individual, and we are. And so we would always say, let us have the information. And if we can flex, if we think we can, if we can adapt, we'll always look at whether we can do that. Is there something bespoke? Is there another way around it? So hopefully families get their forms in on time. No promises, but we will always see what we can do. And we hope one of the things that I'll be able to see whilst I'm here is us continuing to increase our bursary provision. We've just launched a new fundraising campaign called Window to Her Future, linked to a beautiful stained glass window we were gifted up, and we had its grand opening this week. And we thought, what a perfect metaphor for what bursaries offer. So we have named our new campaign after that window. And we're really looking forward to seeing how we can hopefully do fundraising to increase what we're able to offer to families who otherwise wouldn't get all the wonderful benefits of what we can offer here.
Sounds brilliantly inclusive and very generous. As a school, you do quite a bit of work with the local community and other Kensington schools. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, so charitable giving is something that has a really long, proud tradition at Queensgate. I think it was our first headmistress, Miss Wyatt, actually. She wrote in the first edition of the school magazine back in 1896 about how she really wanted to encourage the girls to be thinking of those less fortunately placed than themselves. And I think that's really important within a private sector school. We know that we have a lot of girls who are financially very fortunate, and understanding that there are those who are less fortunate is really important for them to understand. And our girls are really committed to this. I barely have a week go past when somebody doesn't bring me a new charity idea. This week, we all wore our pyjamas on Monday and gave money for that to St Mungo's, a charity for the homeless. That was led by 2 Year 8 girls, thinking about, you know, how fortunate we are to have comfy, cosy places to sleep at night, and think of those who don't. We have our weekly visits to the local food bank where we donate our food, but then our sixth form actually go out there, loading the shelves, packing things up, meeting people who are using that service. It's not enough for us just to, you know, you've put your can in the basket and you can feel good about it. What does food bank actually mean? We have visitors from Age UK who come and have lunch with us once a week, hosted again by our girls, and they really enjoy those lunches. That's something we're really proud to be offering. We have a long association with a charity called Kids for Kids. I've actually just this morning written the foreword for the programme for their Christmas concert, which will have happened by the time this podcast goes out, but we're eagerly looking forward to. That's another charity we've got a long association with, and we love getting to know our charities. We like having that link. And then I've also got girls going out to local primary schools, supporting them with literacy. So we really do have a wide range of activities going on. And it's definitely a way of thinking here. It's not something we do, it's a way of thinking. The girls, they're always coming up with their ideas, their causes that they want us to support. And that's something we encourage, foster and facilitate. I was in my pyjamas along with many of my staff on Monday because we want the girls to see us joining in and supporting what they care about.
Wonderful. And finally, what's your vision now you've joined Queensgate for the school going forwards?
Well, vision is always the $1 million question for a new head. And I think back to the analogy I made about getting to know a school, really getting to know it. That's been what's been important for me this term. I had my vision, I had my ideas, I had a sense of what I would want to do. But what was important for me was to get my feet under this desk and listen, do a lot of listening to staff, to pupils, to parents. It's so fascinating what you pick up. Just that little offhand comment from a parent, positive or negative, where you think, that fits a theme I've already been thinking about. And so it's been really fun for me this term, actually, rather than anxiously putting forward a vision, actually just sitting back and going, okay, what do we need here? I think the themes that are definitely emerging for me, I don't ever want to lose what makes us special, that happiness, that lightheartedness, that individuality and that aspiration and that feeling of we want to be a place of contentment and joy, and that everything else will follow from that. That is what underpins what we do. There's some areas that I'm really looking forward to kind of maybe modernizing a little bit, bringing forward. I think one area that I know was already being planned prior to my arrival, but as with many of these things, the pandemic got very much in our way, is how we're using digital technology in our learning and the digital working parties. And I've got some staff who are enormously keen to take the lead on this, so I'm letting them run with it. We've got a digital learning working party starting next week, and we will hopefully start to have some developments rolling out in how we're going to use technology within the next 12 months. I've got a few facilities projects already well underway in terms of the planning, one of which will be a rather big launch next term, early in February, late January, early February. I hope to be in a position to be sharing more of that with the school community. That's quite a bold one, but we're really excited. It's a need, really enhanced provision for our girls and what we can offer actually in terms of some of our outreach activities as well. And then we're also doing some fresh facelifting of our main entrance hall. Is going to have a refurb over Easter, new paint and flooring, really freshen some things up. And while we wait for that, I'm also keen, part of my vision is making sure we're just injecting fun wherever possible, keep that light-hearted theme. So I have given the head of art permission that he and his girls can use the entrance hall as the space for a temporary mural for a term. I'm not sure what they're going to come up with, but I know that the art here is terrific. And I just thought, what an opportunity. You don't often get to do that. So, you know what, let's just go with it. And then I'm also looking at very much at the moment, where are we at in terms of our teaching and learning? Are we as modern in all of our pedagogy, our approaches? Could we be more forward thinking in any areas? If there's some new things that we could be trialing? We obviously don't want to lose any of our current strengths. We do get incredibly high results, particularly for our intake. We were 4th in the country for value added this year. So we want to make sure we are maintaining that, but also looking at whether there's anywhere we can inject some more pizzazz and move things on there. So a vague vision for now, but those are the kind of themes that I'm moving towards. And I'm really looking forward, I think, next term to starting to roll out some of this in a more concrete format.
Sounds very exciting, and I'm sure the mural will be fantastic as well. Thank you so much, Amy, for giving up your time. I have to say, having looked very closely at your website, we love the sound of the kittens as well. I don't imagine that they make it into school.
Absolutely not. They are terribly badly behaved. I don't remember my last cat being quite so adventurous. These two, the bit where they learned how to climb the bookshelves, that was a happy surprise as they started to knock things off. They are, yes, they're very active, very lively, but fortunately very, very sweet. I don't know that I would recommend to new heads, just before you start, do get 2 kittens that are going to need a lot of work, a lot of looking after. Maybe wasn't the best idea, but they are bringing me a lot of joy when I am at home.
After a long day.
Yes, exactly.
Well, thank you so much. And it sounds like an absolutely wonderful school. And we look forward to hearing more from you further down the line.
Thank you, Chloe. It's been a pleasure to speak to you today.